my name's Alan Fowler. I'm the Senior Vice President of Mortgage Services here at Newsenda. 42 years, though, experience with lending in New Mexico and affordable housing. My father was someone who helped found the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority, so affordable housing and housing in general, and how it works in our economy is near and dear to my heart, and something I've spent a career working on. So I'm really pleased and honored to be able to open this event for you guys today. Newsenda is, for those of you who've been around a while, it used to be known as New Mexico Educators Credit Union, started by some teachers in 1936. We have today built up to about 250,000 members, which in a state of 2 million people, that's a pretty decent market share. But we are still a credit union. We're cooperative. We are in the business of helping our members, and the old credit union philosophy of people helping people is something that Newsenda is all about. Helping organizations in the community, helping our members build their financial wealth and security. And we are part of the ecosystem of New Mexico. And the economy of New Mexico really is going to benefit when more people are able to be in housing, and want to play a big part of that. And of course, that can only happen if our economy is growing, if we've got jobs, if we have education. Newsenda is real big, and the education isn't just for the people ready to buy a house, education is for the kids in school. And so it's a generational project, and that's what we're here to work on. How many of you here have been involved in affordable housing in New Mexico for over 20 years? Got a handful. So you know that more than 20 years ago it was kind of a niche group, right? And now, with housing booms across the country, it's a subject that people are starting to pay attention to. And what we've learned throughout history in New Mexico is the only way we have success is doing it together. Not people going out and doing their own thing, but people getting together in rooms like this and learning about the resources available and how we can plug in. Excuse me. So I really want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being part of this mission, and together we're going to figure this out to the betterment of our state. All right? Good. Thank you. Danielle Casey. I want to introduce Danielle. She's the president of area. She is your hostess today, and I want to thank you for bringing these folks out today and being part of this.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Thank you very much for the intros and the welcome. How's everybody doing? All right. I love finding this as a room that's just small enough to where it looks insanely full, but also comfortable enough. So thank you all for coming out. This really is a tremendous facility, and as we do our programming with area, I really do like to try to move around to different areas of the region and at different facilities and locations to really highlight what our partners are doing and the amazing assets we have. So this is what we're going to try to do today. I'm going to try to get through my little piece really quickly, because I think I know that the panel is what's going to be really interesting. Oh, that's a big face. It's time for a new headshot when your hair starts growing, or I'm just going to have to go get it cut, one or the other. So how many of you have been to a building or regional economy event with us before? Anybody? All right, so about a quarter of you, that's what I'm looking for, repeat offenders. I say that every time, keep coming back. But this really spawned out of area, or AED in the past, as it was named. We've always had an ambassador program over time, but we weren't convening the ambassador program as much as we could, and we started thinking about what does it really mean to be an ambassador for the organization. And to me, it means people that are continually coming back to get not just educated, but re-educated about what our strategies and priorities are at area for regional economic development, and then also being out there and being evangelists for us. So how do we share that knowledge? And then also, I don't really care, truthfully, and while we love our investors and partners, I don't care if you're an investor or partner. I care if you're anybody in this greater Albuquerque community community that wants to know about economic development and what we're doing, and it wants to be connected in that. And so that's what this series of programs is for. And we are going to be doing a little taping today and trying to keep more of this information in a place where people that couldn't attend can check it out. So this is really important, and I've kind of paused here a little bit to make sure you all read this, right? We've been around a long time. Our organization is 60-ish years old, a little bit more than that actually. And so obviously this community and this market gets that economic development is important, but our mission statement in the past said that we grow and attract jobs into the region. And when we completed a new strategic planning process about a year and a half ago, our board was very intentional in saying we really have to explain this at a much deeper level, because what it really means is not just attracting and growing jobs, but what kind of jobs? And what do those jobs mean? And how is this affecting the lives of all of the people in our community? Because if we're not thinking about this last sentence here, elevating the standard of living for everybody, then why are we doing this? So I can cut a ribbon so somebody can celebrate something and then maybe a company doesn't survive or stay in the market? No, it's really about driving our competitiveness. But ultimately, are people's lives getting better? Are their skills and qualifications ramping up? Do they have a higher household income? And do we see more success? And do we see our young people staying here? So I can go on and on, right? For those of you that are in tune with us and paying attention, and those of you that maybe have missed this, we do serve the four-county area. We're very proud of that. And that's really based on a census metropolitan statistical area. What I'll actually tell you is we actually now also even had a meeting earlier today. The town of Edgewood, which is even a little bit of a toe into Santa Fe County, appealed to us and asked if they could be part of area and start plugging in being a community partner. So again, economic development, from my perspective, knows no bounds other than what an economic market and a labor shed and those other types of things connect to. So businesses are not looking at certain municipal boundaries or other things when they pick a new place to go in. They want to pick a location that works for their business, and they want to figure out a way and a location in a spot where they can actually access the labor they need, where they're going to get the support they need, where they're going to survive. We work extremely closely, obviously, with the state level economic development office and the New Mexico partnership, their marketing arm. These are some of the communities that we work with closely. And these are the services that we provide to key partners. So if we're working with clients and opportunities that are looking at our market, looking to come in, we do these things for them. So we provide really in-depth market analysis. Where is Chad? He's back in the back, making sure the computer doesn't burn up. He does really sophisticated research data and analytics for us and works with our advisory councils. He just, I pointed it out in a meeting earlier today. I think he spent about 12 hours this week already just putting together comprehensive data for our company that wants to bring a significant number of jobs to this region. But of course, what's their concern and question? Anybody want to guess?
Where are they going to live?
Both, yes, okay. I love that you're topical for today. Everybody's on point. But yes, labor. Do you have the labor? What is the labor cost? Am I going to be able to recruit it? And then, where are they going to live? What is your plan in your community? And the reason we're really critical as a regional organization is we can look at the regional perspective of that. And we are also very clued in and working to provide data and information and insights that they can't get in a Google search, right? What kind of plan development is coming online? What are the real trends and issues that we're seeing? Sitting down and talking to companies in a direct way. So we do that. We do site selection assistance. We act as a regional single point of contact, and then we do connect them to a lot of key resources. And then we have some interactive elements in terms of the way we work with clients. So when we're all talking about who's that cool company that's looking, can you tell me, Danielle, who's going to come or who's going to announce or who's going to be here? And our standard economic development answer is no, or I'd have to kill you, right? But in reality, a lot of times we don't necessarily know the company's name that's coming. When we do, it's usually confidential for obvious purposes. They don't want everybody in the world knowing where they're looking. And oftentimes they're looking in multiple markets at the same time. These are all the things that we do with them. We help liaise to the public sector. We provide research. We can also provide incentives, benefits, and analysis. We can run economic impact analyses. And the other key piece that I like to point out, this is all a lot of great fun stuff. Post-transaction support is very, very important. We work with companies all the time. Beth on our team is right there in the back there, and her entire job is visiting existing companies to see how they were doing, helping them grow, and figuring out what their challenges are so we can aggregate that and use all of that intelligence to then say, these are the changes that we need to make, and here's how we need to drive competitiveness in our region and in our market. If it were as easy as let's just run through or approve a single incentive, trust me, we would have been saying that and we would have done that. It's really that it takes a lot more to build a competitive market. And one of the things we like to underscore with everybody is that economies are regional. So just kind of reminding everyone why it's important for us to serve a regional market and to engage with everyone, because no one community in this region or even in the outlying areas is not interdependent in some way on other communities in these markets. I can run this data for you in any other reverse order from any community in the area, but as you can tell, people that work in Albuquerque, only 60% of them live actually in Albuquerque City proper, and this is why we have to work together. And then the other key piece of the work that we do is area focuses on, I get these questions a lot, right? Well, does area do small business support? Do they do startup support? Obviously, we will help and support anyone that calls on us, even if it's simply getting them to the right resource or the right organization that specializes in those areas. We love being a connector. Where we really focus our energy and resources, though, is the attraction and growth of companies and industry that we consider base industries. So they are bringing in or creating net new wealth into the market because they are exporting outside of our market and bringing in new dollars. They're creating IP or selling a widget or doing something that goes external. All right, so let's talk about, I got some people in the room who actually saw this earlier today, so maybe you'll just memorize it after this, or maybe I'll spin it a little different. But let's talk about the competitive environment, right? And this is a big piece of information that was very important in our strategic plan. We completed our strategic plan a little over a year ago. It gave us some harsh realities, and we wanted to be very honest about what we were dealing with, because it's really easy to put a really nice plan on the shelf and ignore it when you don't really feel there's a sense of urgency. I don't think there's anybody here today because you don't feel a sense of urgency about the economy. Okay, cool, because it's not for the snacks. I can tell you that, right? But we definitely identified some trends that were concerning. So it's easy sometimes if you have some good announcements or positive things to forget that we still are trailing other competitive markets. And I don't know about you guys, I like winning. And so I'm very, very intentional about us getting to a top quartile. We want to be one of the most competitive markets in our peer group. Also, it's very important to know who your peer group and competitors are. And everybody in the country doing economic development right now is dealing with things like competition for jobs and companies. Nobody's got the supply of talent they want, so we can't feel bad about that, by the way. Nobody, no market, no community. I go to a lot of economic development conferences. I instruct on economic development, and I meet with a lot of smarter people than me, and not a single person I've talked to, I think ever, has said, oh, we've got more labor than we could ever want in those industries, come on down. And then infrastructure and business environment, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, right? So in our strategic plan, we looked at a lot of competitor markets, and I'm going to take us through this a little bit quicker. And we keep an eye on them when we look at our competitive position, but these are things that I do not like to see, right? So we have to also quit letting others tell our story. This is also a big piece of the strategy that we're going to be rolling out in much, much greater force as we increase our activity over the next year. By the way, everybody, because I just love to embarrass my team, everybody say hi to Sean. Sean is having his second day with us. Yeah. Sean, he'll single-handedly be in charge of getting us national PR and branding, and he's not sweating at all. Yeah. No, but so really great to have awesome, talented people here. He's doing great, but these are things I don't like to see, right? I also don't like to see that in August of 2022, this is updated data from what I had earlier today, only slightly though. Okay, cool. February 2020, we felt like we were doing really good. What do we look like today? We are still 1.3% behind the jobs we had in February 2020. So when we say, hey, we've almost recovered from COVID, that's awesome, but these guys have not just recovered, but they're bouncing forward. I don't like that. I want to be on this side of the fence. That's the shinier side. I don't care. I feel like the grass is greener there. But what I do love is we have a place to go, and we have an aspirational piece that is going to drive us forward. So this is very important. So I like to always say this because I want folks to always remember that context matters. So whenever we put together data and slide decks and information about how things are going in the market, I always look at the team and I go, that's great. How are our competitor markets doing? Because if you show me any pie chart or any piece of information about our community, it means nothing to me unless I know what that is like from a competitive standpoint. So, because I guess you could, have a baseball player hit 1,000 grand slams by himself in a field, and so again, that's not really going to mean much. And again, I'll just circle back to talent attraction, retention, and development is critical. And that's because of a couple things. So when we think about the context, especially our topic today, housing, bringing housing in the market, what are our challenges? How do we advance this? Site selection, companies choosing sites, whether it's internally or whether they're hiring big fancy higher-powered consultants, or whether they're working with the brokerage community, or whether they're just deciding to do it on their own for some wild reason. Actually did a very big pitch with a company that's an extremely bona fide firm that does have a site selection consultant advising them, but they are also doing all of their own interviews for markets, and now they're down from 250 to 300, from 250 to 36 sites. We're two of them, so hopefully, wish us luck. But their whole job is to take every opportunity and figure out what the criteria are for their future locations and eliminate options, right? And take them out of the mix and reduce down until they get a final winner. It's not about, I really, really like Greater Albuquerque, we're going to make that work. It's where are the 50 locations that could possibly work for our business, and let's figure out where we're going to be the most successful. And those are qualitative and quantitative, right? That's just sheer labor force numbers. That's what does your pipeline look like for talent you're graduating? What does it look like for housing affordability? What do I need to pay these people? Does this community want me? Those are all very, very important things. So they're really eliminating and filtering down, deselecting, as you will, as opposed to selecting. And so I know it's really hard to see, that's why I highlighted these, look how fancy I am. Because at the end of the day with all of these things, when we look at surveys that analyze site selection criteria from consultants, and they update this every year, hasn't changed from 2020 to 2022 really, if their top reasons for selecting a community right now, and really for about the past decade, are labor costs, availability of labor, and other things, it doesn't really matter as much as I love it. Over here, quality of life is number 20. I love quality of life. It's still going to matter in their site selection criteria. It does matter. But if we can't solve for some of these critical factors, we're going to be taken off of that list very quickly in a competitive standpoint. So again, we keep an eye on those things. We think about it a lot. We have a lot of conversations with consultants on these. However, and if any of you were at our quarterly event recently, was anybody at Electric Playhouse with us? All right, this is how I get to see even more people that are continuing to come check our stuff out. So this won't be new to you, but I do want to hammer it in your brains. These are the things that we talk about when we talk about folks, when we talk to people nationally that are exceptionally unique about New Mexico and the Greater Albuquerque market. We're very proud of, and we continue to pull out these data sets so that we can educate folks about the benefits of being here. I think it's pretty cool that we have a 24-minute average regional commute. I know everybody here thinks it's terrible. Trust me, it's not. I am also a big fan of the many women in leadership in this market, but it really does speak to, I think, the fact that, and I'll echo, I think it was Cynthia Schultz, our board chair with Bradbury Stam, who's the one that articulated this far better than I could, and she said, well, what that means to me is we just pick people that are good and hardworking and qualified for the job, and we don't care who they are or what they are, where they come from. We're going to put them in that role, and so it's pretty cool to see so much female leadership as well. Also, I'm going to throw you guys just some of the quality of life things because I know we love those anyway. Being extremely close to the third largest art market in the U.S. Chad corrected me on that. He said, well, it's not us, it's technically Santa Fe. I'm like, no, they're in our region, or our greater region, so I'm going to take it, I'm going to claim it. Yeah, there you go. 91% of our residents are within a 10-minute walk to a park, I love all the casinos. I think I talked before in November that my mom really loves the casino. My stepdad is visiting, and he apparently has been in all of the, he's been doing some poker tournaments. So whatever gets him out of the house. Anyway, so I'm going to hit you really quickly on our strategic plan. Hopefully you have heard about this ad nauseum, but this is how I reinforce and get everybody up to speed as to what we're working on. I've showed you our mission statement. I've showed you our top goals. These are the target industries that we're working on. And what this means is these are the industries based on a really ridiculous amount of data and research and competitive analysis. Trust me, we didn't just sit in a room and say these are cool. There is a lot of data and information behind this, because we want to pick industries that not only have a high opportunity and a high propensity for growing, for being able to skill people up and have career pipelines, but also that we have some benefits in already, where if we just bump the needle a little bit, we're now going to be a leader in compared to those other competitive markets. So keep an eye on those. We're really doubling down right now on aerospace and biosciences. We've started doing deep dive research in those arenas. We will be continuing to work on building out all of these in a really systematic and classy way. And this just talks a little bit about more of the focus areas. So, it's not just as simple as going, well, we like aerospace. Well, is it directed energy? Is it aerospace vehicles? Is it systems maintenance? So these can get into very, very niche industry arenas that also, every single one of these has a very, very targeted and niche approach and value proposition. So I like to share with everybody in these discussions that, for me, I would always get people that would go, well, Danielle, how do you sell the market? Like, what's your elevator speech? And my answer to that is, or my counter question is, all right, if I'm selling you, I need to know what industry you're in, how you're representing this firm, and then what market you're in. And then I'll tell you why you should be in our market. So I am not going to sell the community the same way to a film and media supply company that I'm going to sell to an aerospace manufacturer, maybe somebody trying to do chip wafer manufacturing. So it's a very different conversation with a lot of underlying data sets that are going to be consistent. And if you haven't looked at our strategic plan, happy to get you a copy. But we really have 3 critical goals behind it. One is establishing our identity as a leading location for business. I've told this story about 200 times in the last 2 years, that when they interviewed me to come in, and by the way, my 2-year anniversary, David's on my executive award, is in a week. Oh my, just in case there's a cake coming. I'll remind you guys. At least a social media post, right? I'll do it. I'll just tag you. And I'm really excited, but when they interviewed me for the role, they said, well, how would you fix economic development for our market? And I think I spent 3 hours Googling Greater Albuquerque, and I was working like crazy and doing a Zoom call, and I said, well, I think the most important thing that we should at least think about is that I haven't heard about the market as a competitor to any of the markets I've been in the last decade. So we're going to, in 2023, now that we're near the end of really wrapping up the capital campaign and efforts and ramping up our internal assets and resources to really start getting crazy about this economic development work in a new way, is getting out there and building a national brand. So we're looking at doing some very, very intense market research. So we're going to be looking nationally and actually surveying corporate leaders in those target markets that we want to pull companies out of, and finding out what they think about Greater Albuquerque, what that brand perception is, and then developing messaging and statements as to how we want to go after them and what we want them to think and say about us. So that's one example. We're increasing our lead generation and outbound business development work. We'll be doubling next year our trade show and market visit presence, now that we're coming fully out of the bid. And then people call it the Rona, I called it the bid, I don't know. But a huge piece of effort around talent attraction and retention, and then working on breaking down those barriers to regional competitiveness. And I will say a huge testament to work in that arena is just all of you in here today. We had, and I've got folks in the room, we had our first meeting ever of a newly formed public sector advisory council today at lunch. And what's mind-blowing about that was a small room of less than 10 people having conversations, but we've never had an advisory council of public sector leaders to our regional economic development entity before. Now we do. They're jazzed, they're excited. Yeah, Commissioner Munson?
Totally.
And we have a new chair of it, by the way. So, excellent. So thank you for being here. So with all of this, we've laid a new foundation for area over the last year. Our strategic plan, we reorganized the nonprofit itself, creating the capacity for public sector leaders to engage with us, for communities to engage with us. We've also really reached across the aisle with commercial real estate brokerages because they are significant in our transactional work. And so really we're trying to partner with and work with anybody that we have a mutual goal and connection with. And we've done a lot of work as well figuring out what are you really good at and what are we really good at and how do we leverage that. Because I can tell you one thing, there are not enough resources out there in this market to do everything we want to do, so we've got to leverage each other. So groups like the New Mexico Chamber, I've been locked up with, we're thinking about really cool creative ways to set up new entities to do think tank types of work together, along with UNM Anderson School. So that's just one thing that we're doing. So a lot of partnerships, and we have really completed our capital campaign. And so just to get a little picture of how we're structured, we have our board and our board directors, and then we have business leadership advisory councils. These are all brand new. And then we also have our engagement with our public sector through our economic developers group, as well as that public sector advisory council. Please do, this is just kind of one random example, but we have a lot of crazy resources. This is one example. We also just did a recent report with NAI Sun Vista, a joint report on industrial market trends and activities. So they're really wonderful partners. All of this stuff is available for free on our website for you to check out. This is a little example of our MOU. So just to kind of underline our partnership with industry, we actually have a really wonderful executed document that talks about how we're going to work together to better and advance the region and how area serves as a resource for all of our private sector partners that are trying to put things in the community. So just a quick announcement. Everybody always wants to know what kind of deals we've done and what's happening in terms of announcements. So far this year, publicly announced, 1,865 new jobs to be created through those announcements. Obviously, they're not on the ground today. If they were, that recovery number would look a little better maybe. It takes time also from an announcement for companies to actually get their footprint in. A good chunk of those, 950 of those jobs, is Mana Capital Partners. It's going to be going in Las Lunas. So we're thinking about housing and community growth and regional activity. That's a huge piece of it. Also, that spins off significant investment in the market. When we think about the demand that we're seeing, so if you wonder who we're working with or what kind of activity, like, okay, you guys are doing economic development, you're talking to people all the time. Again, I flew to Atlanta for 20 hours last week with the State Economic Development Department to pitch an international firm. That would be about 500 jobs. I just got off the phone with a national consultant I know out of Dallas who a new site search that my team doesn't even know about that would be another 500 jobs in the solar industry. So we are hot right now in terms of inquiries and activity. Our big challenge, as we all know, is where's the infrastructure and where are the sites and the buildings to put them in. So when I get calls like that, I'm like, what? You need 400,000 square feet built next summer? So we'll talk. Anybody here who wants to help me with that? And of course, I'm going to go, oh, sure, no problem. Let me get back to you on that. A little bit of panic because we really are out of space. Anyway, but we do have a lot of active opportunities in the pipeline. We started calling them hot projects. A hot project means we're on the phone with the representative of that project at least 2 to 3 times a week, probably spending about 10 hours a week pulling data for them or putting together a tour. And what's pretty cool is where we're getting these leads from are direct to us through partners, through business retention efforts, and then about a third of them are also coming through the state of New Mexico that then gives us the opportunity to respond for the region. And this is just some nice pie charts, but you guys can look at this at any point. What it really says is, obviously, as we know, a lot of these are new attraction projects and also significantly heavy in the manufacturing space right now. These trends have been consistent for about the last 12 to 18 months. I think they're going to hang on for a little while longer, but we're all trying to put on our crystal balls for what's going to happen next year. If all of the manufacturing came to fruition that we're working on right now, we'd have about 8,000 additional new jobs, a little more than 3,000 in office, and then transportation and logistics. So again, we're working with all of these to figure out, again, how do we stay in the fray? How do we keep from getting eliminated as a market, and how do we win? And so just if you guys didn't catch any of these announcements, they're all on our website. You can learn about Mana Capital Partners, the Blue Halo expansion that happened recently. These folks are really a great story in our community, doubling down and continuing to grow. Rogers Foam is a wonderful, it's a small facility and a small footprint in terms of employment at this stage, but they're here because they see a really great potential in terms of connecting with other industry in our market because they serve medical, automotive, they also work in the aviation industry. So when you think about those applications, it's significant. I'm just being a little braggy, but our business retention program, we're able to apply for national awards, and we did get the highest honor in terms of the revamp of our program and the intentionality last year of that program to work regionally and to also start to collect data in a much more meaningful way to inform our program. So excited about that. Whenever you get an award, you got to talk about it. So with that, first of all, thank you all for entertaining me in the update. Those of you that have heard this before, hopefully you can give the presentation for me next time. Those of you that haven't, I really appreciate the audience on that, because it's just, there's so much going on and so much activity. I think we have to always keep forefront of mind on why we're doing this work and why we're trying to align everybody together. So for today's discussion topic, which I think is absolutely fascinating, and anybody who's kind of watching the news lately knows that there have been some pretty serious recent discussions about topics related to housing. I'm going to say we actually had the idea for this topic about 2 months ago, so it just happened to be very timely this week. But I'm thrilled that it is, because I think it just reinforces, and everybody being here today, why we want to talk about housing and why it's critical. Community building and infrastructure building, and truly infrastructure isn't just, water, wastewater, and electric, right? It's parks, it's schools, it's all of those things. Without that, we are not going to be able to retain or attract the talent we need and grow our community. So Marcos Gonzalez, come on up, Marcos, while I introduce you formally. He is going to facilitate today's panel. Marcos, first of all, he's been an amazing friend and supporter and just an unbelievable colleague to me since I got here. This truly is such an awesome community. But he started his career in state and local government economic development back in 2008, joining Bernalillo County's economic development in 2012. Was recently its assistant director and has taken the full seat role leading the entire initiative for the county. It's always been his passion. It helps always, right? That's what the bio says, always. Exactly. It helps to fulfill his personal and professional commitment to the people of New Mexico. I believe that all day long when you watch how he operates, increasing and improving job opportunities. So whenever anybody's looking to expand here, they work with Marcos on the county side. Marcos, I'd say we're probably in contact 3 or 4 days a week as well. It's pretty extensive probably, and that might be a light week. So it's an honor and a privilege. In 2020, he led his team, by the way, to implement programming for the coronavirus aid relief and economic security, the CARES Act, then for the ARPA in 2021, and to date more than $7.6 million has been dispersed to property owners for rent arrears out of the county, and he's the one who's making sure that that was facilitated.
View, like 30,000 view of our market. Can you give us an overview of it?
Yeah, I'll try. Things are changing so fast. As you know, the economic situation has spurred a lot of talk about interest rates, which is a large driver in the residential resale market area, that niche. That is the preponderance of our business, and our members pay attention to that. Incidentally, are there any realtors in the room? I know 1, 2. They're everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. They're your neighbors. They're your friends. They're people you wouldn't expect to be realtors. Are realtors for many reasons. But we have about 4,300 members in the Albuquerque area, and about 7,000 across the state. So the Albuquerque area comprises over half of the realtor population in the state of New Mexico. But the market itself, you hear bad things about the market in the media, but in reality, these last 3 years have been quite remarkable in terms of sales volumes, the speed of a sale, the speed of a transaction. Those of you in maybe the title business know that it's been very difficult to even keep up. If you're an appraiser, you might be able to take a breath now, just a little bit. But I wouldn't say it's falling off a cliff. It's normalizing. Back last April, May, in that time frame, a normalized market 3 or 4 years ago, a normalized market would have been 5 to 6, 6,500 homes on the market. with a turnaround time or an inventory absorption rate of about 30 to 60 days. We got down last April to 600 homes on the market in the MLS, and that was kind of scary. The funny thing about it is sales volumes stayed level or higher. That means they were turning faster and they were costing more, so the prices are up. Historic highs these last couple of months as rates begin to climb. That's squeezing a lot of first-time home buyers or those at the lower tier of the credit scores and so forth, squeeze them out of the market because a house that last week would have cost them $1,300 a month is now going to be $1,600, $1,800 a month. It's happening that fast, and they're just being sort of squeezed out of the market. That's going to make very predictable results, and that is higher inventory levels, which we're already seeing. We're about 1,500 available homes in the MLS. Seasonality, we always slow down a little bit this time of year. Holidays and school and all those things. Things will pick up back up in the winter or in the springtime. But again, I don't hear anybody saying the sky is falling. It looks like we're normalizing. When we get back up to 3,000 or 4,000 homes on the market, and like I said, title companies and others can take a breath, then it's probably time to really make some long-term plans. But it's not a time to panic, I don't believe.
Well, that's good. So, but with that is which areas we talked about the economy being a region, what areas are you most optimistic about?
Northeast Heights is always a hot area. Very high demand for those homes. And the issue there again is the prices of those homes are, as Brian will probably tell you, it's not getting cheaper to build homes. In fact, one of y'all won a TV at the NAIOP conference, right? And offered to trade it for a dishwasher. Right. You were having trouble getting a dishwasher. Northeast Heights, Southeast Heights, Northwest Heights, Taylor Ranch, Petroglyphs, Volcano Vista. We feel like there's a couple of different areas that are going to be in the future the meat and potatoes, and that is Sandoval County and Valencia County. Both of those areas are coming online really pretty fast. Infrastructure, as Danielle mentioned, is a real concern. If we look at trends year to year, increased sales in outlying areas because the prices are probably more attractive.
Yeah. That segues right into the question for Brian, being a home builder, and you've seen the constraints and the supply chain pieces we've been dealing with, is how have you adapted and how do you see that going forward in your industry?
So to add on to what Kent was saying, interest rates have spiked pretty dramatically, and that's a major concern for us. The duration for us to build a house right now is 10 to 12 months, which is significantly longer than it was 3 years ago. So we have customers who are under contract, expecting to close next week, who contracted their house from us when interest rates were at 3.75%. Right? And that's a big shock. It's a big concern. But to your point, I was joking that our pipeline of homes under construction is still in the white hot market. In the sense, these are customers who contracted from us 6 and 8 months ago, and our new sales activity is in the present market, right, which is higher interest rates. Fewer people are able to afford as much house. So the supply chain over the last 2 years has been absolutely wild. We have had extraordinary levels of change. We joke that we used to put all these provisions in our contract and say, well, we might have to switch out your garage door, but we've never had to do that before. And this is my 22nd year in the industry, and we've never had to do that. This year, we basically say, you're going to get a garage door, but we can't tell you exactly what it's going to look like. We've had huge issues on on the supply chain side. China is still in a zero tolerance policy essentially for COVID. So any input that's coming from China is affected. Commodity prices have been through the roof. Steel, lumber, copper, gypsum, cement, everything has skyrocketed. We've joked that the inflation rate that's being reported is 8.2, 8.4%. Our inflation rate for new homes we think has been 25% over the last 20 months in that ballpark.
Wow.
The only place where we've seen relief of costs so far is lumber. That has softened, but right now labor is still sky high, and all other materials are still very high, and we have not seen any softening of costs, and we really don't foresee that for a while. So the supply chain, our projects are still delayed and expensive, and it's harder to get something built today than it's ever been before.
I'll take a small liberty of asking a follow-up question to that. Is that going to affect the product, meaning the type of house you're going to be making versus having starter homes versus the more expensive family homes? Do you think the starter home that we see lower price for that emerging economy, that's not going to be a new product that's going to be built?
No, yes and no. As it ties to supply chain, some of you may have seen these pocketing infinity doors, right? The door with 4 panels that nests and goes into the wall and tucks away beautifully. It's a great door. They're now about $20,000, and it's a 26-week lead time to get that door.
I can't have one.
So as much as our customers would love that on some higher end products, we're saying that door is no longer available, right? It presents too much of a schedule risk for us to include that component in the house. So there are components where we've seen high levels of volatility. We've taken those components out of the house. In some cases, that makes the product a little more simpler, or we replace it with a 12-foot sliding glass door with 2 operable panels in the center. It's something that's tries to recreate that feeling, but something that's more readily available. But the starter homes, really, as Ken mentioned, I think the first-time home buyers right now and the affordable sector, period, is the most vulnerable, and they're the most at risk for interest rate spikes. So from that perspective, there's the rate environment. There's also the capital environment, right? That people are going to invest in projects where they feel that their product could be absorbed. And right now, that's another big challenge for affordable housing. There's fewer qualified and eligible first-time home buyers today than there were 6 months ago.
Exactly, which leads us right into Holly. Holly, can you describe what YS Housing's mission and why quality affordable housing is important to the community?
Of course. So YES Housing is a nonprofit organization based here in New Mexico. We've been in operation over 30 years, and we're one of the largest affordable housing developers in the state. We have properties here or throughout the state of New Mexico, and then we have a couple in Arizona as well. And over the years, we've developed approximately 2,800 units of affordable housing. So YES's mission is to build and revitalize community with quality affordable housing, and we like to try to bring the services that the residents need for that housing to our properties whenever it's feasible. But really, what's really been near and dear to our hearts more so now is that we really expanded our efforts into developing community and aiming to economically stimulate distressed areas and the underserved communities. So not only are we building housing, but we're looking to do things such as add retail components or live work spaces to the developments that we have, so that it's just more of a community for our residents. So that's really what we've been targeting. We really have an excellent team, and I'm very proud of them all. They're very experienced, and I think that's what helps us get so much of the affordable housing things across the finish line, because it isn't for the faint of heart. So why is quality affordable housing important? It's important for a lot of reasons, not only for families and individuals, but it's also important for the neighborhoods and the cities too. We need it all. Affordable housing improves the quality of life for the people, so that it leads to better health, better financial stability, security, population diversity, all of those things. So it really does improve communities. So let's face it, like affordable housing, if you think about it health-wise, so if you're not stressed about being able to pay your rent next month, or how are you going to put food on the table, or things of that nature, it does have a positive impact to your health. You're just a better person, in my opinion, when you're less stressed. Stability. So think about all the families and the kiddos out there who don't have a place that they can call home, and they're trying to look for, the place that they're going to be able to sleep at night. If you can offer a housing that's affordable, then you don't worry about that. You bring stability to families, which also improves the community. Sustainability. So that's always a positive impact. And then it creates jobs. Where you build the housing is where people will spend the money or spend their money, and it creates jobs in those communities too. So then it generates gross receipts tax back to the area and all of those things, which is also helpful. And again, it improves diversity. So we're putting a whole bunch of different people in a community from all different walks of life. So overall, I think the impact is very positive.
Great. Can you share some exciting projects you have in the pipeline, and maybe share some of the challenges you're having with those projects too?
Yeah, of course. So we have never been busier than we have been in the last 3 to 5 years. And again, we have a great team, and there's such a need out there. So we have a property that we just broke ground on in Hobbs, New Mexico. It's a 56-unit development. It's for seniors 55 years or older. So that one will come online in 2022 or 2023, I'm sorry. And it's restricted to residents that is 60% of the area median income or below. There's no direct subsidy for the tenants involved in that one, but it does have the rental restrictions there. We also have a property under construction right now, which is called Copper Terrace here in Albuquerque. It's 100 units of affordable housing. That one should be done at the end of this year. We renovated that one, so it's pretty exciting. And then we have Calle Corta, which is, we're working to get that one across the finish line. That's a project at 4th and Candelaria. That one is really, really exciting because it has 61 units of multifamily. It has 10,000 square foot of retail space, 4 live work units. The back side of the property is going to have 19 single-family townhomes that'll be for sale. And then we're looking to acquire the property that's directly adjacent to it, and we're also going to add retail components to that. So essentially what we're going to do is develop a community, bring the services and the retail that our tenants might need in that same space. And it should create jobs, so we hope to incentivize tenants to be able to work in that community as well. And then we are also looking at a very large project at 2nd Rio Bravo, and hoping that we can, 2nd Rio Bravo, and hoping to bring that one to fruition sometime in the near future as well. That one will also include quite a few units of affordable housing. We're probably thinking 300 to 400 units, financed with the 9% tax credit program and the 4% tax credit program, possibly some single family. Retail, there's going to be some industrial space, we hope, and also we're really looking at building a garden space there as well for our tenants. So we're not bored.
No. And then if anybody wants to geek out on tax credit projects, Holly's your person, and I'll be glad to get on the conversation too, but we love to do tax credit projects. Brian, can you share some of the core values of Raza Homes and how those help shape the modern design and what you're in your building product?
Sure. There's a couple things that we like to say. I mean, first of all, the core value that we the drumbeat that we all march to is do it right. And that's sometimes easier said than done. But what that means in Albuquerque, ultimately in the area, right? We comment that ultimately all real estate is local, wherever you do business, and our climate and our municipalities, our conditions are so unique. Our culture is so unique in terms of some of the architectural styles and there are things that work here that don't work other places, and vice versa. Other builders come in from other places and they're like, we should do brick and hardy board and siding and all these other materials. It doesn't resonate in New Mexico. But do it right. We talk about we are a local company, we are a local builder, and we believe this is a place that values all things local, right? Dion's outperforms Papa John's here, and people like Marble beer more than they like, Michelob, right? I mean, there's certain things that are how that reflects in our product is in many different ways, but we some little examples, but we always do a trowel on acrylic top coat for stucco, right? There are some people in the marketplace who like to paint stucco, which to us is an inferior way, and when you're living at 5,000 feet elevation with extreme heat and extreme cold, the paint breaks down. It doesn't work. And you can see these houses that are 2 and 3 and 4 years old that have failures on them. And we joke, my business partner Mackenzie and I, we're on the younger side of many builders. We're not the youngest anymore, but we hope to be doing business here for a long time. And we don't want to drive by our neighborhoods that are 5 years old and see houses that are failing. And there are so many places where you can see product selection issues where somebody went for the cheapest bid that it just doesn't work in New Mexico. So acrylics is one. We do TPO roof, which is like a rubber roof on all of our flat sections, and people joke that that's like a pool liner. I mean, you can literally fill your entire roof with water, and it's truly like one of the best products you can put out there, and it has reflectivity, it has an insulation factor that's better for the sun, it's better for moisture, and people love their flat roof architecture here, right? At least in sections and places. But the tar and gravel roof is an antiquated system. It doesn't work, and you'll find people here who are saying, I'm New Mexican, I want a flat roof, and other people who say, I'm New Mexican, I've lived here my whole life, and my dad told me to never ever buy a house with a flat roof. It's the worst product out there, right? And these are some of those things that we have to, we have to be able to speak when we're designing our products. We have to speak to all the local, design standards and keep those pieces in mind, because we don't want our stuff to look just like a house that you could pick up and drop into Cincinnati or Pittsburgh or Los Angeles or Miami, right? Like our product should be different, should be appropriate at the local in our market.
Exactly. So we'll pivot to the future, so we can't bring up that crystal ball. What gets you really excited about how our region can shape new housing or adaptive reuse construction projects to satisfy the increased demand in the future?
Thanks, Marcos. First, let me go back real quickly to data. As part of our offering to our members, we host the multiple listing service. I've got a team of 3 people and others cross-trained in multiple listing duties. And so our job is to make sure that data is correct and accurate and available to you all. You can go to gar.com, gar.com, and look at our market status. And we've got history going back a long ways in market stats off the MLS. And so if you like looking at stuff like that, that's a great place to do it. It'll talk about sales, absorption rate, listings, closed sales, pending listings, withdrawn listings, just about any kind of number you would want to know about transaction history. But what gets me excited is we finally seem to be, in the events of the past couple of weeks here, in policy, these policymakers, city council in particular, we finally seem to be getting somewhere with our conversation about more rooftops is going to lead to success. And if you're looking for the chicken and the egg, we've got to do rooftops. And of course, we need industrial and office space and manufacturing space and those things as well. But if there's no place to live, they just can't move their companies here. And so that's really, really important to us. And we seem to be getting somewhere. There was a conversation with the mayor's office about ordinance changes that would lead to some pretty exciting projects in terms of rehabbing hotels and raising the height limit on restrictions in those ordinances. Just a lot of things that would help, because more rooftops, quite frankly, is our future. If we can add rooftops, no matter where. I know it's going to be a few years before we get to sell or resell one of your homes, but it's there, and finally we have inventory. And so I never like to see inventory go up because people are buying fewer homes. That's not the inventory we need. We need an inventory where we're out there building like crazy. Todd Clark talks about, I don't know, maybe you probably heard him this last week, talks about a deficit of somewhere around 30,000 detached single-family homes, and lots more in the rental apartment market. And so if we could get busy and start closing some of those gaps, and I believe the policymakers may start listening, they might have cracked their ears open. What will absolutely put the brakes on is any kind of rent control that they throw at us, which we were able to stave off at the city council last Monday night. But it is something we'll be, I'm sure, battling in the legislature in January. So that's our future. Part of it's good and part of it's hard. These things are all hard, but we're excited to be able to work collaboratively on these things.
Pass that ball to Holly. What can Greater Albuquerque do today to make sure we lead the country for quality affordable housing?
Okay, well, how much time do I have? I'm just kidding. So I wish I had all of the answers to this question, but I really don't. And probably much of what I'm going to say today, you guys already know. But really, I think we need more public-private partnerships, together collaboration to make this work. How do we get more units on the ground faster in a time where we have supply chain issues, we have labor shortages, the cost of labor is through the roof, so it's really difficult to make our deals pencil out right now. And honestly, before we'll start construction on a building, and it is leased up before we even finish construction. That's how much of a demand there is for it. But working with like the city of Albuquerque, other cities that we build, MFA, and lenders who are mission-minded have been like what's most helpful to Yes. So again, I think collaboration is key, taking all the input from a lot of really smart people to make this happen. And so Yes is not grant supported, so we operate basically off of the development fees and the service fees that we generate. So our capacity sometimes of what we can do is limited or constrained by the funds that we have. So if we're able to collaborate with others who have the funding or maybe a different skill set than what we do, what we have in our team, we find that that's helpful in being able to move things faster. So really thinking about things like doing things like that. And then honestly, from our perspective as a nonprofit, we really need more subsidy on the development end of things. So most of our funding is awarded through the low-income housing tax credit program or through like the city of Albuquerque or other cities, but it's a competitive process. So we have to be able to win the RFP or win the tax credits or what have you to have the funding to be able to do the work. So our sources are kind of limited. Let's see, so things like being able to work with the city or the county to help getting like property tax abatements is always helpful. And a lot of my input is from the finance side of things as the CFO of the organization. But operating costs are also through the roof right now, and so in our developments, they are rent restricted because of the low-income housing tax credit program. So we can only charge the rent that is set by the state.
And so when our operating expenses go above and beyond what our rents, then what our rents are, then it's really hard to make the deal pencil. So if we can get things like property tax abatements, or it helps to reduce our operating costs. So project-based vouchers are also a good thing. If we could get more of that in our community for the tenants, they do work. We've seen people move into our property and really kind of age out of it in time. Like they needed the help for a period of time, and they were able to move on and buy their own home, or move to a market rate property or what have you. But really, residents that are 50% of the area median income or below are really just like one major incident away from not being able to pay their rent. So, and there's a lot of families, unfortunately, that face stuff like that. And then I think looking at different ways to repurpose buildings that aren't being occupied is something that is really should be considered. There's a lot of open space out there, I think, that we could take advantage of. But for yes, I mean, we would need programs associated with that to help us be able to cover the cost to renovate or acquire that space. And then building in higher density. I know that's always a pushback because you have the beautiful view of the mountains and you don't want to impede upon that. But really, it's something that we have to consider. And then this is one of my soapbox things, so I won't stay on it very long. But really focusing on building our workforce here in New Mexico, looking at the kiddos, our young kiddos that are in school. And not every child is, or every kid is college bound, and college is not for everyone, right? But we need people in our workforce that have skills, that, we need our plumbers, our electricians, all of those things. So if we work to build more programs in school so that kids can learn a trade while they're, in high school or what have you, and then they come out, then they can get a job, they can be already able to pay their rent and buy food and all of those things. So just really educating our kids, or giving them the opportunity to succeed when they get out. Financial literacy training, all of those things. I could go on for days. And I know cities like Rio Rancho and Albuquerque are really starting to do things like that, but I think we need more of it, and we need it a lot faster than it's coming. But really, like, coming together as a community, all differences aside, is what we really, really need in order to fix this problem. That I think that ultimately will allow for more quality, affordable housing to be put on the ground faster.
I think Dr. Everybody's soapbox is here today as well. So to move to Upper Lane, when we think of the next decade, what does the housing situation look like for the Greater Albuquerque area, and how can we work together to build more quality-minded affordable housing for families to enjoy?
This is not necessarily going to be a pleasant answer. This is the circle of trust here. I don't want to call it a dystopian future, but I will contest that the pandemic and the policies that have been made coming out of it will create the biggest wedge between the wealthy and the poor that our society has ever seen. I think that's bound to happen. I think if you owned real estate and if you were in a solid asset position going into the pandemic, you're going to come out smelling like a rose. And I think if you were a teenager, a recent college grad, or a young professional who did not own real estate, I think it has very quickly left your grasp. And I think too many people are going to be left out of real estate nationally. But I think that's going to be exacerbated here in our area. Our market already struggles with natural constraints. If you look at the city of Albuquerque, we have Air Force bases, pueblos, mountains, and basalt escarpments that really limit the path of growth in terms of where we could actually build or build cost effectively. I don't see the pueblos or the Air Force base or the mountains changing their mind anytime soon. So I don't think that any of those areas will ever become developable. So that leaves the path of development. We have Mesa del Sol, which is a fantastic opportunity for investment and construction, but it's not necessarily it's not affordable with a capital A, right? it's market rate. And we have West Albuquerque land holdings piece, which is Santolina, which has been pretty opposed. We don't have support for growth in our market generally. Like, a lot of people don't want to see growth here. And that's really going to push development out to Las Zonas and Valencia County and Sandoval County and Rio Rancho. And those are two areas right now, if you look at the permit data, those areas are outperforming the city of Albuquerque in terms of their permit growth, because you can actually get something done there, which is acceptable. Or, I mean, capital goes to where it's most welcome. And Rio Rancho has